Welcome, everyone. Calling to order this evening's Borough of Council regular public meeting. Today is March 19th. It is 7 p.m. Let us start this evening with a call to order and roll call.
Councilmember Chmielewski.
Present.
Councilmember Cerna.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Fry.
Here.
Vice President Kingsley.
Here.
President Sokolowski.
Here.
And Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just everybody remember when you're speaking to please put your microphones on so folks at home can hear us, okay? Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll start the agenda this evening with Council President announcements. Administration, did we receive any public comments following the March 5th meeting or anything regarding tonight's public meeting?
We did not receive any public comments.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment this evening for any of our agenda items that anybody would like to talk about before we get started? Okay, hearing none. We will move right into our land use matters, public hearings, and ordinances. So the first item on the agenda under this topic is to consider approving Resolution 2025-05 that would be approving preliminary and final minor subdivision and waiver of land development for the Conshohocken Italian Bakery. At this time, Mike Peters, would you mind reviewing the conditions and stipulations for us before we approve the resolution?
Sure. So as council knows from the presentation at its last meeting, this application is designed to clean up the Italian bakery property. At the end of this, the entirety of the bakery facility will be on one lot. The resolution that we prepared would result in the bakery being on one lot. That's combining five tax parcels to make that happen, subject to the following conditions: that the applicant would revise the plan to comply with the review letter of your borough engineer dated February 5, 2025. Condition 2, same thing with respect to your zoning officer, a review letter dated February 5, 2025. Condition 3, compliance with the review letter of your traffic engineer dated February 4, 2025. Condition 4, compliance with the review letter of the Borough Fire Marshal and Commercial Building Inspector dated January 28, 2025. The applicant shall in good faith consider and discuss with the borough the comments in the review letter of the Montgomery County Planning Commission dated January 28, 2025. The applicant shall obtain the borough's approval of the plan for recording and record the plan, and shall obtain any and all outside agency approvals to permit recording of the plan. The applicant shall execute, this is condition 7, and record such documentation as shall be required by the borough to ensure the borough's continued access to the culvert underlying a portion of the property. The language of such documentation shall be subject to the review and approval of the borough solicitor and borough's manager. Applicant shall otherwise work in good faith with the borough to conclusively address ownership of the culvert, paper streets, and alleys under which the culvert is located. Number 8, the applicant shall work in good faith with the borough and execute and record such documents as needed to clarify ownership of any paper streets, alleys underlying the property. Number 9, the applicant shall satisfy any and all outstanding invoices from the borough with respect to the plan. And 10, the applicant shall execute a PSA if required to cover the legal, engineering, and administrative expenses associated with final review of the plan, to prepare the plan and any other additional documentation and materials needed to effectuate recording, and must otherwise meet all requirements of the resolution. It is, in terms of what you see, a very straightforward resolution, because what we're doing is documenting and recording what currently exists today. There is no new construction proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Sure.
Council, any questions related to any of the conditions that Mr. Peters read out this evening? Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-05, approving the preliminary, final, minor subdivision and waiver of land development for the Conshohocken Italian Bakery?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving Resolution 2025-06, approving the preliminary, final, minor subdivision and land development for 440 East 9th Avenue. And again, I will turn it over to Mr. Peters to review the conditions and stipulations of this resolution.
Thank you very much. As council will recall, the proposal is for 2 single-family homes. The proposed conditions as prepared by staff are as follows. One, that the applicant would be granted a partial waiver from SADO Section 22-306.A, parens 1, to excuse the requirement that all existing features within 100 feet of the site be shown, subject to the condition that the applicant provide additional information if required by your borough engineer. Condition 2, the applicant would be granted a waiver from SADO Section 22-308.C to permit submission of preliminary and final subdivision land development plans at the same time. Condition 3, the applicant would be granted a waiver from SADO Section 22-404.1.A to permit the existing 14-foot paved alley width to remain instead of providing the required 15-foot width. That would be subject to the final review and approval of the borough engineer and borough's traffic engineer. Condition 4, the applicant would be granted the requested waiver from the requirements of SADO Section 22-409.2 to permit grading within 3 feet of the property lines. Condition 5, the applicant would be granted a waiver from SADO Section 22-421 to excuse the requirement that the landscape plan be sealed by a landscape architect because the applicant is only providing 2 proposed street trees, subject to the condition that the applicant shall add such plan notes as shall be required by the borough engineer to document applicant's ongoing maintenance obligations with respect to the trees. Condition 6, the applicant would be granted a waiver from SADO Section 22-421.4 to permit street trees at 34 feet apart instead of the maximum permitted 30 feet apart, and to excuse the requirement that the street trees be placed 5 feet behind the right-of-way as shown on the plan, subject to the applicant again adding such plan notes as shall be required by the borough engineer. Number 7, applicant will be granted a partial waiver from the requirements of SADO Section 22-804 to permit payment of a fee in lieu of park and rec facilities in the amount of $8,000. Conditions 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, the applicant shall comply with the following. The review letter of the borough engineer dated December 20, 2024. The review letter of the borough zoning officer dated December 23, 2024. The review letter of the borough traffic engineer dated December 30th, 2024. The review letter of the borough fire marshal and director of licenses and inspections dated December 20th, 2024. The review letter of the Montgomery County Planning Commission dated January 3rd, 2025, to the extent required by the borough. And the zoning hearing board's decision issued August 29th, 2024, which is attached as an exhibit to the resolution. The applicant shall, at conditions 14 and 15, execute stormwater operations and maintenance and a land development and escrow agreement, subject to the review and approval of my office and the borough manager. Number 16, the applicant shall satisfy all outstanding invoices from the borough relative to review of this plan. Condition 17, the applicant shall execute a deed restriction to the satisfaction of the borough solicitor and borough manager, limiting uses of the garage to parking only. That's to ensure that it's used for parking and not simply storage. Condition 18, construction of the project shall occur in accordance with the plans, including in substantial conformity with the architectural renderings, which are identified up in the background section. And lastly, condition 19, the applicant shall comply with the terms and condition of this resolution. The applicant has reviewed those conditions and found them acceptable, and it is prepared for your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Any questions related to anything Mr. Peters presented this evening?
No.
Okay, hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-06, approving the preliminary and final minor subdivision and land development for 440 East 9th Avenue?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda this evening is to consider adopting Ordinance 1, 2025, amending the parking ordinance. Again, I'll turn it over to Mr. Peters to discuss our particulars in the ordinance that was advertised on March 12th, 2025.
Thank you very much. Yes, the ordinance was advertised. It's ready for adoption. The three regulations imposed in the ordinance you had previously imposed as temporary regulations, analyzed them. It has been recommended by administration and staff to make them permanent. So here are the regs that would become permanent. A stop intersection at West First Avenue at the intersection with Maple Street in the east direction. A handicap parking, a no parking area on Robinson Alley on the east side between West First Avenue and West Hector Street. And finally, a handicap parking space on East 6th Avenue on the north side in front of 10 East 6th Avenue. And again, these were all temporary regulations that have been tried, and now the ordinance is before you to amend the ordinance to make them permanent.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Any discussion related to the ordinance for parking? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion to adopt Ordinance 01, 2025, amending the borough's parking ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the next part of our agenda this evening, which is our consent agenda. 2 items on the consent agenda is to approve and adopt the February 5th and 19th regular meeting minutes, and then approve and adopt the February ending treasurer's report and accounts payable. So first up, I'd like a motion to approve and adopt the February 5th and February 19th regular meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next motion would be to approve the February ending treasurer's report and accounts payable in the amount of $892,098.78.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is under our unfinished business. So first item up under unfinished business is to consider appointing an applicant to the zoning hearing board as the alternate position. We conducted interviews, and what I am looking for is a motion to appoint Chris Deardoff to the zoning hearing board as the alternate position.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item under unfinished business is to consider authorizing advertisement of an RFP for the architectural services for the Public Safety Services Facility. Any questions on that? Looking for a motion to authorize the advertising of the RFP for the architectural services for the Public Safety Services Facility.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider Resolution 2025-07, approving an extension of the one-way traffic pattern on East 2nd Avenue. At our last council meeting, we had a discussion about East 2nd Avenue, and since the weather and the fact that we started later, we're looking for an extension. Any questions related to that?
So could we just clarify that this is the temporary?
That is correct.
This
It is a
is-
temporary evaluated period, and it would be from April 6th until July 5th.
Okay.
And has signage gone up?
Yes, signage is up, directional signage is up, yes.
Okay.
Anyone have any other questions about the motion we are looking for this evening? Okay, hearing no other questions, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-07, which will approve the extension of a temporary one-way traffic pattern on East 2nd Avenue?
I'll make that.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider awarding a bid for the 2023 CDBG curb ramp installation project. Any questions related to the information for the CDBG grant?
I will just add, for documentation purposes, that the project was put out to bid. We did receive 6 bids with Albert G. Cipollini Jr. as the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $41,941.86. And that scope of work will include curb ramp installations at specific corners throughout the borough, again, using the grant funds through the CDBG program.
Thank you, Steph. Any other questions? All right, then I am looking for a motion to award the bid for the 2023 CDBG curb ramp installation project to Albert G. Cipollini Jr. and Sons Incorporated in the amount of $41,941.86 for all the items under the base bid.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to new business section of our agenda. So we would like to discuss the memorandum of understanding between the Borough of Conshohocken and Conshohocken Fire Company Number 2 regarding the transfer of ownership of the current fire station to the borough. So at this time, Steph and Mike, would you mind discussing the MOU provisions? Is there a vote on this? I think it's a discussion only tonight.
Discussion this evening.
Okay.
I will note that the fire company has reviewed the same draft of the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, and the MOU is basically transferring ownership of Fire Company Number 2 to the Borough of Conshohocken. And that is in preparation for the fire company transferring their services and their home base to the future public services safety facility. So the Memorandum of Understanding has specific stipulations in it. Those terms include that the deed for the fire station will be transferred to the borough within a certain number of days from the execution of the MOU, that the borough will pay the fire company $1 for the transfer of ownership. The fire company will be permitted to continue to use the fire station for its operation following transfer of ownership until the new facility is built. The borough will assume upkeep and maintenance of the fire station, and both parties understand that the borough's allocation of funds to the fire company will be adjusted to cover the costs that are associated with those specific operations. The borough has the right to access the fire station, provided such access does not reasonably interfere with the fire company's operations. And should the borough fail to construct the safety services facility within 10 years of the date of the MOU, the borough agrees to assign the fire station back to the fire company for $1, just like it was transferred to us. And reimbursement to the borough by the fire company of costs of any capital improvements made to the fire station that exceed $10,000 will be paid back to the borough during that same 10-year period. So there was a very amicable process in terms of drafting the MOU and going back and forth between both parties. The fire company has reviewed the MOU with their trustees and their membership, and they've actually already voted to approve. And I do have the executed copy, thank you very much, Kristen, in my office. So it's for discussion this evening from Borough Council's perspective, but the fire company wanted Borough Council to know how vested they are in this project. You heard them here when they first requested that Borough Council consider this very important initiative for the future, and you've heard members of both the fire company and borough administration talk about how this project, this capital project, is a 100-year project. So it's very important to the borough. It's very important to the fire company. We thank them very much for executing what we needed them to do in order we could get it here this evening. And so it's for discussion this evening. If there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. We are providing we're a little bit out of order in terms of this is a voting session, so we weren't just going to discuss it and then vote on it. We do want the public to have that opportunity. So they'll have until April 2nd to provide questions, concerns, clarifications, either to my office or to Borough Council members. And then it'll be back on the agenda on April 2nd for consideration for execution. So it's a very exciting time for the Borough of Conshohocken, and we're very excited to be partnering with the fire department on this initiative.
Great. Any questions from Borough Council related to the MOU or the process? This is good stuff. We're excited.
And those two, and you have both Kristen and Leo, and this wouldn't happen without both of them. So thank you both very much.
Thanks, guys.
For your commitment. All right. Hearing. Can you hold it till the end,
Public
Ed?
comment, yeah.
Do you mind?
I thought it could ask questions in free time, but that's okay.
No, public comment?
Yeah, let's hold it till the end, and then we'll be able to discuss. Thanks. All right, next item is a discussion on the resolution establishing temporary traffic parking regulations in the borough. Steph, do you mind taking this one?
I will. We did skip over letters.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, look at that. I write right over that. All right, let's go back one, since we're in the fire mode. All right, so the next item is to discuss the resolution approving the sale or donation of the fire truck. So Steph, would you like to discuss that one?
Yes, I will. I'll take that one too. So Borough Council has set up a capital depreciation process for all of our equipment and vehicles, which allows for the borough to be in a position where we have basically state-of-the-art equipment and vehicles for our fire company. Not every municipality and volunteer fire company is in that position. So we'd first like to just thank council and our mayor for positioning us financially in order to maintain that capital asset list and keep our first responders equipped with both equipment and vehicles that they need in order to do the very important work that they do on a regular basis. So with that being said, because we are positioned to have the equipment and the vehicles that we need, we do have older pieces of equipment that we are no longer using. And our options are basically to take that vehicle or that equipment and sell it for potentially a small profit, or if presented with an opportunity, which we were in this case, where we have a municipality out of Girardville, Pennsylvania, who has a very limited budget and is in dire need of equipment, matching one of our fire trucks, which is no longer currently in use, then we do really seriously consider mutual aid is imperative to the success of emergency services. And our emergency management team is always looking to assist any emergency management entity, but most importantly, a volunteer emergency management entity. So they did reach out. We do have this truck that, especially with all the change that's coming with locations and fire, that we would like to have your authority to, instead of doing other options with it, but basically sell it to this volunteer fire company in the amount of $1, subject to certain conditions, is that where it would be sold at whereas and as is with no warranties. It's expected that it will be tax-free. If there's any issues with that, then that would be the responsibility of the buyer, and that they'll execute required agreements in order for us to successfully and legally transfer possession and ownership of that truck. So both the borough and the fire company is recommending that council consider this sale for that $1, and there is a resolution which then permits you legally to do so.
Any questions? There's no vote on this tonight, but I wanted to.
Logistically, do they come and get it, or are we delivering that?
Leo?
Do you know?
Yes,
They're
they
coming
come
to get
here.
it? Okay.
We're not the only area to do this. There is another township, I believe, that is also supplying them with equipment. So it's hard out there.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing,
Yeah.
to help out a volunteer firefighting company. And with that dollar, we'll be able to pay the dollar, hopefully, to number two, and it'll come through our acquisition costs, so it's really a net zero, really.
Wait, is
good
that
work.
with interest?
Yeah, no, but kudos to everyone involved for working with another area on this. It's really great stuff.
That's not another township. Once these smart companies, they're all there.
Thank you.
So the truck is going to be fully operated.
Okay. But I have heard of other,
And number two,
Fire.
they're also going to include
okay.
So our mantra is that at one point in one day, we will be in a position where we may need something from someone in order to, whatever that need may be. And therefore, if we can do it, we want to do it.
Absolutely. All right, so it will be up for vote on 4-2.
Yes, same thing. So there will be a period of time between today and April 2nd, should there be any public comment, concerns, questions, or need for clarification. And anyone from the public can reach out directly to me in my office, and I'll funnel it to the appropriate individuals or straight to your council members. And then we'll make sure that all of council sees those public comments as they come in.
It is a testament to our volunteer fire company that we have older equipment that actually is in good shape, that we can donate it to someone in need. So kudos to our companies for keeping the equipment as well as they do. So thank you. Alrighty, now let's talk about our temporary traffic parking regulations in the Borough of Conshohocken.
So you heard this evening that we did make an amendment to our parking ordinance, and that parking ordinance is probably one of our most fluid ordinances. So changes are always happening in the borough, businesses are changing in the borough, residential structures are changing. So with all of that change, we have to constantly be looking at the parking ordinance and if any additional amendments need to be made. So we did pass one amendment. That ordinance is now whole, but we do have two additional new temporary resolutions. So what we like to do with any new parking regulations is have them approved by resolution, and then they are temporary for a period of time. That allows both the borough, the residents, and businesses in applicable areas to determine whether or not there's any negative impacts by imposing those new temporary parking regulations, or whether they are successful. In which case then those temporary resolutions would be packaged, and we'd go through the same process that we just did, where you would be discussing an amendment to the ordinance publicly. It would then be advertised. It would then be in front of council in a public forum, and then potentially be voted on. This evening, the two requests that are in front of you is Tony and Joe's. The owner of Tony and Joe's has requested that there be the two existing parking spots on East 2nd Avenue be made into 15-minute to-go parking for takeout orders. So we have deployed this option in other areas of the borough after requests from restaurants or businesses, and that has been successful. So this latest request is from Maurice and Natalie at Tony and Joe's, and we are recommending that with all the changes that are happening down in that commercial area specifically, that we at least allow them to try this particular setup with this to-go parking over a period of 90 days, and then evaluate whether or not it should be made permanent or not. And then we also have a resident that did reach out to Councilmember Chmielewski asking for a stop sign at West 2nd Avenue and Forest Street. That request was evaluated by Chief Lennon from a safety perspective and our borough engineer from a traffic perspective. They both did agree that the difficult sight lines approaching that area should require that they be a stop at that intersection, that it would increase safety without creating any traffic congestion, especially considering that Veteran Plaza's construction is going to be happening in the near future, and there'll be additional stop signs that are placed in that area anyways. And therefore, we thank that resident for reaching out. And thank you, Councilmember Chmielewski, for forwarding it to our attention. And so this evening, we are also recommending that that be put in place by a temporary resolution for a period of 90 days and evaluated before it would become a permanent ordinance amendment.
Regarding the Tony and Joe's, there'll be signs that specifically say Tony and Joe's?
There'll be signs that say to-go parking, just like they do outside the boathouse and the pub right now.
So in other words, the beer distributor can use those also?
They are not specific to
Okay.
an actual
Thank you.
business.
And those are spots that are pulled in, right? They're not parallel, correct? They're
That is
just
correct.
pulled
They're
right
pulled in.
Okay.
And again, this is for discussion only. Again, it'll be discussed in public and then back on your agenda on the 2nd for consideration for approval.
For the, just for context, the stop sign at West 2nd Avenue, it was one neighbor who brought it to my attention. Other neighbors I've talked to said, yeah, they really, so it is something that the people that live in that area think that they need for safety, so.
So one of the things that come up quite often is, that I hear is we put these temporary things in and then we never reverse them. So I wanted to just kind of talk about that with folks, that it is our residents that bring these things to us to evaluate, to identify improvements for the Borough of Conshohocken. So when they don't get reversed, it's because we're working towards what our residents are asking us to do in policy. So I don't know if any of you have had that interaction with folks, but
I'll just note.
I wanted to bring it up to
From an
folks.
administrative perspective, we had more that came in, additional requests that residents or businesses asked us to look at, evaluate per procedure and policy, that we have not moved forward because they did not meet the stipulations of what our policy and procedures and ordinances that inherit meeting behind them. So yes, we get numerous requests. They're all taken in, they are all evaluated, they are all passed on to the correct individuals to determine whether or not that is in fact in the best interest of the borough. Some we do move forward to, through the chain of command. Others, we respond back that it was evaluated and it's not something that we can do, or we will evaluate it at a later time. So yes, we can't satisfy every request, but we do take every request seriously.
thanks, Steph. Okay, so there's no vote on this evening. There'll be a vote on 4-2. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving the Civil Service Commission Certified Patrol Officer Hire List and permit Chief Lennon to process conditional employment offers subject to the physical and psychological exam results. Any questions related to that topic?
I will just add that the Civil Service Commission met on Monday, March 17th. Chief Lennon did present a thorough description of the consortium testing process, all the regulations and procedures that went into that testing process, and he did provide the names of the 6 individuals ranked in order of their written, oral, physical results, along with their additional requirements that are listed within our civil service regulations. There is a list of 6 patrol officer names that are on a certification list that was then approved by the Civil Service Commission. And this evening, what we're asking you to consider is that you approve the certified patrol officer hire list, and that Chief Lennon can offer employment to one of the top individuals on that certified list, and that would be filling a vacancy that currently exists in our police force.
It is a budgeted position.
That is a budgeted position, correct?
And plan is one for right now?
One for right now, yes.
Great, thank
The
you.
certified list is good for 1 year.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? So with this one, I will need a motion to approve the Civil Service Commission Certified Patrol Officer Hire List and authorize Chief Lennon to process the conditional employment offer subject to the physical and psychological examination results from that certified list.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda this evening is to consider authorizing advertisement of a bid for concrete services for the Weinman Park project. So, if there are any questions, please let me know.
Is this something we're going to bid out just because of the scope of the project?
Yes, the
Okay.
scope of the concrete services in particular, along with adding in an alternate bid potentially for the paver portion of the project.
Okay.
Yes, the majority of the work for the park is being done in-house.
Correct, that's why I was.
And
all right.
kudos to our
Yes.
public services gentlemen who have been hard at work down there. But yes, this scope, just considering the quantity of concrete that is required, we are looking to bid that portion out.
Perfect, thank you.
And the completion of the Weinman Park is slated for 2025?
2025, depending on, as long as the bids that come in for the concrete services come in within bid, within budget.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, hearing no other questions, do I have a motion to authorize the advertisement of a bid for concrete services for the Weinman Park project to include the concrete curb and the concrete path layout and the installation as a base bid, and then an alternate bid for the paver plaza layout and installation?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider accepting a resignation from a Marywood Park Commission member. So I am looking to accept the motion from John Pedicino for resignation from Marywood Park Commission. It's my understanding that John moved out of the Borough of Conshohocken, which then makes him ineligible to sit on that commission.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving a tuition reimbursement for Officer Montowski for the 2025 summer semester. This is part of the collective bargaining agreement. Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve tuition reimbursement for Officer Montowski for 2025 semester per the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. That concludes the agenda items other than public comment. So any public comment related to what we discussed tonight? I think, Ed, you wanted to come up and talk about fire services.
Regarding the fire truck, I'm sure it's Rockville.
If you can just, can you state your name and address for the record?
200 West Elm Street. I'm sure Gerardville, Frackville, Shenandoah, Lost Creek, all those little towns around there would appreciate the donation from the Washies and from the Second. Regarding the property for the fire company number 2, did you ever get a fair market value for what that might be? Because once they leave, were you intending to sell the property to whatever, since they are going to be moving into the public safety building, the new building?
So that will be part of the process as we move forward. We have not done fair market value as of yet. The objective of this would be that it would become another one of the borough assets to allow us to then continue to see what we can borrow on to build the new building. So it will add to what we potentially can borrow.
So
there will need to be an evaluation.
And then at some point in time, you may sell the property for housing or whatever.
Whatever that zone,
Is allowed.
zoning allows in that space.
Do you have any idea what the cost might be for the new public safety building moving forward?
I will look to Stephanie. I don't know how far you've gotten down the road with that.
So this evening, we just authorized advertisement for an RFP for architectural services. So once we actually have an architect on board, and they do actual renderings and design and construction costs, then yes, we'll have a better idea.
So do you have an idea when it might start, like at 26, 27?
It'll be dependent upon the architect, our external contractors, and how fast they work, and then also debt financing and financing options for the borough.
Because
So
I heard you
stay
say
tuned.
earlier that there's a 10-year opportunity to get things finished.
That is correct, in the MOU.
Our objective would be to have it built and occupied much before 10 years.
Question, how are you coming along with the traffic signaling on West Elm Street to Fayette across the bridge? How's that coming along?
That project is actually moving very well. There is a May deadline. That project was funded through a grant through the state, and it was $1.6 million. So the contractor is on schedule, within budget, and meeting their deadlines so far for the grant dollars. So yes, there has been additional traffic in that area because they're actually taking signals down to put the new signals up, and then the last 2 weeks have been them removing the old signals. So there's been a little bit more congestion than usual, but once they're all up and new and synced, then you should see
That might be in June?
No, it has to be done by May. So you're within they're on track. So that'll be the latest that it extends till.
Okay, because the problem is from Oak to Maple, Maple to Caldwell.
Yes.
Any day during the daylight. Sunday at 2 in the afternoon?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
can't get,
Yeah, I know. I've been down there. I've
impossible.
driven down there, sat in my car down there, stood down there.
Alex, have you noticed any problems down there? On,
Well, that's what this
West
project
Elm.
is helping with,
Yeah.
right? So,
well, it's a lot worse now than it was, so that's why I'm hoping that it's going to get
Yeah,
better.
Ed, I sat in it one Sunday and I thought, what is going on?
Right.
Yeah.
10
so that's
o'clock
what's going
Tuesday
on.
morning, 2 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. It's not congestion traffic from businesses going back and forth. And like I said, the problem doesn't seem to be Fayette Street.
No, it's not. It's the construction, and they are aware of it. And in order for us to make it much better, we have to finish the project. So it's going to
Right.
be slightly worse as they take the signals offline and put the new ones online until they can get everything synced up. But it should be completely eliminated. That congestion that's not related to the expressway or to Fayette Street should go back to normal once that work is complete.
So my understanding, PennDOT will set the timings and whatnot.
It is a combined relationship between the borough, electrician, and PennDOT, yes.
Okay. Because, I don't know if you've seen them, they're bigger than refrigerators. I mean,
I
they are
am
huge.
fully aware of the project, yes.
They're huge. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment this evening?
Does it have to be about tonight?
Anything.
Yeah, come on up.
Hi, guys. You remember me from December? I'm Tina Brunetti from West 11th and Fayette. I was talking about speeding on Fayette. So since it's been 3 months, I haven't heard from anybody, and I know you said you would let me know when you're going to start talking about it. Do you have any idea when it's going to be on the docket? Any idea?
Can I?
Yeah, go
give an
ahead.
update? Okay. So we saw you in December, and I told you that I would be calling you when I needed you, right? Yep. Get everybody to come to the meetings.
Yep.
I do not have an update. So we submitted 3 grants, 2 multimodal transportation fund grants, and a local share account grant, specifically for the road diet project, where we were talking about moving traffic patterns in order to alleviate speeding, congestion, et cetera. We have not heard back from those grants yet, so they're in excess of their $1 million grants, $1.3 million grant. Now, we did just hear back on 1 multimodal transportation grant, which we did get, but it was for another project. So I'm waiting for a response on that round of grants.
Okay.
If we are the recipient of either one, that would give us the funds necessary to seriously go to PennDOT and say, this is the plan. The plan is ready to go. Our traffic engineer has generated the plan. And say, we're ready to do this.
Great.
Get on board.
Okay.
So that's what's happened since you were here last.
Good.
And
That's a
so,
lot, actually.
yeah,
That's a
but if
lot.
we get one of those grants, we'll have to bring the whole project back to this setting, and our traffic engineer would be here to present it. And that's when we're really going to need your support,
Got it.
so that we can come and residents can really say, this is what we want you to fund. We want you to take those grant dollars, put up the matching, because there's matching grants there's matching money that's required. And we think that that's a proper allocation of taxpayer dollars to do that project.
Perfect. All right. I'll wait
So
to hear
we
from
have
you.
your number.
Great. Thank you so much.
But that is perfect, that is perfect timing to have the discussion that this is spring, it's Fayette Street, we've got a lot of people out walking again. They walked all winter long, but we're going to see more and more on Fayette Street, and we are all responsible for the speed we drive on Fayette Street, right? So we all need to hold ourselves accountable as well, and that is to everyone watching this, everyone hearing this. We need to set examples for Fayette Street and let the guy behind you beep at you for going 25 miles an hour. So that's my mom spiel right now. We're all responsible. You're welcome. All right. Any other public comment this evening? Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Mayor, who is going to go through some fun pictures of a fun weekend that we just had.
Very, very busy time in town. Yeah, so of course the big news is we had the St. Patrick's Day Parade on Saturday. I don't think I realized until I was in this position how much work goes on behind the scenes to make an event like this happen. From months and months of organization with our administration to the safety end to even the budget process to get us some of that safety equipment leading up to the day. And then, of course, all the departments that were on hand for the parade itself. So really a big thank you to our team here for putting it on and for really giving us the reputation to have these events. It's pretty amazing that major organizations keep coming back to Conshohocken, and it's because we have this infrastructure. So big thank you to our team, and of course a big thank you to our residents for attending these amazing events and making them as awesome as they are. We also had a couple weeks ago a big fundraiser. My son has a heart condition, so we've been in and out of CHOP the last couple of years, and CHOP has asked our family to be an ambassador family for the hospital, and this is one of their biggest events of the year. It's a spin-in, and we had a Conshohocken team go down. We raised over $4,000 and had a really fun day down there. In total, the event raised $1.1 million. All of which goes directly to the cardiac center at CHOP, which we've spent many weeks at. So it was really an honor to be there. And this was the first year that Thomas wasn't afraid of the bikes, and had a great time hamming it up and being on stage and doing all the fun things. So thank you everyone for your support that helped us out with the event. We also had at the library, it was Read Across America last week. So the library always invites members of the community in. If you remember, there was an evening last week where we had some big storms come through. So we actually were supposed to have some firemen and police officers that were very busy. So I did some double and triple duty, reading books to the kids to fill in their slots, which was awesome. So thank you to the library, who continues to host these wonderful community events for us. And then finally, I got some big news at the parade. Anthony let me know that Scoops will be officially open on April 1st. So I'm sure you will catch me and Thomas down there quite a bit. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fry?
I'm good, thank you.
Kathleen?
Nothing.
Anita?
I'd just like to say we had a good time at the parade, and thanks to the streets department for all their hard work of putting out all the barriers and everything. And thank you to everyone who bought cupcakes
Adrian, you're good? Alan? All right, and I have nothing this evening. So with that, I will call meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.